A very good afternoon to all of you. I am Mosmi Ghosh, the research scholar of NIT Raulkela, and I welcome you all to the fourth day of our short-term course. I'm delighted to warmly welcome Mr. Michel Knops, a distinguished project manager at Erasmus, Netherlands, with an illustrious career spanning over 30 decades and extensive project management experience at several renowned companies, including ING, Opidum, Intermex, Cloud Sourcing, LVNL, and Bizway. We are privileged to have Mr. Vikas Shukla, a distinguished pre-sales consultant in Tier 1 bank at Encompass Corporation, Amsterdam. He has also been contributed his talents in roles such as senior consultant at Finestra, solution manager at Indrato, and senior manager at Cognizant. In a collective endeavor, they both have seamlessly delivered cutting-edge technological solutions and offered cloud computing services to numerous prestigious banks on a global scale. We are indeed honored to have such distinguished guests among us today. Sir, please.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Let me first find a way. Vikas, did you receive my presentation just yet, or do you want me to share it?
I got it. Give me a second. I'm putting it on.
Sorry, guys, that was my bad. It's not Vikas's bad, it's my bad.
Okay.
Never make last-minute changes.
I guess you can see my screen now.
Yep.
Perfect.
All right. So for me, it's morning. So good morning, good afternoon to everybody in the course. I hope you're still enjoying the course and it's bringing the value that you're looking after, that you were looking after. Vikas and I would like to share our view on technological innovations in ESG reporting. We both have a background in IT, and we really want to try to share the real latest and hot stuff that's going on in this area. I will start off the presentation, basically setting the scenes of the more, let's say, the traditional side, and Vikas feels more at home in the future or more future-oriented developments that are real future-oriented developments that are going on at the moment, like the crypto chains and artificial intelligence. But those are the subjects he is going to speak on. So maybe next slide, Vikas. So, well, this may sound like a slogan. Sustainability is the new digital. It might be true, it might be not. For sure, it's that sustainability, of course, is the talk of the town. And as I also expressed on Monday, from the country I'm from and from the background I come from, sustainability. The sustainability is key for the existence of our country and for our future. So in that sense, it's just as important as digital was like a few decades ago. However, in this presentation, we want to turn stuff around. We want to show you how important digitalization is for sustainability reporting and to attain the right sustainability goals that we have set with each other. So basically, it's working both ways. That's what we want to explain, and we want to give you some pointers on where to start and where to look in an organization in improving the digitalization of ESG reporting. Next slide, please. So let's first look at the current trends in ESG data requirements. Well, one of the things that everybody in this call will experience is that there are rapid developments in the whole regulatory landscape around ESG. So it's only next year that the European Union will set out a new ESG reporting framework requirement set out by law, and currently at this time, everybody's just getting their fingers behind what it is, ESG reporting. The bigger stock market companies, of course, have their ESG reporting in place, but they do not comply to any specific international standard yet. Now, for next year, they have to comply to the European standard. So that's really upsetting their whole internal process on how to assess and report their ESG metrics. Of course, the volume of the whole sector, the whole ESG subject, is growing rapidly because of the massive investments that are being done in sustainability at every level, whether it being renewable energy or it is, like I explained on Monday, an airline that simply wants to become more sustainable. Investments that are done are huge and are growing year after year. So also the levy and the weight of ESG reporting is growing by the year, and the complexity of it is growing by the year. The topic that we will focus on in this presentation is the data required for ESG reporting, how to get it, how to manipulate it, how to report it, and how to analyze it. And that is just becoming ever more complex, simply because the volume of data is growing and the number of sources of data is growing. And again, the regulatory requirements are ever changing. So we will focus on how technological innovation can help you, at least that's what we think, can help you in streamline that process. But to us, to Vikas and me, data is key to the ESG process. Vikas, next slide. So looking at ESG, of course, is a lot investment focused. And what we see is that despite a lot of companies being early still in their process of proper ESG reporting, the requirements for accessible and available and audited ESG data is accelerating. So whereas not everywhere ESG reporting is required at the moment, it will be required. Whereas not everywhere a certain ESG framework for the reporting is required, it will be required, like in the European Union. And within those reports, I think it's a matter of time that people will also require that each number in the report has been audited and has been accounted for and can be really traced back to its source. So that's something that really lays the requirement for having a very, very profound ESG reporting process in place, and that all starts with the fundament being the data for that process. So to us, it all points to the data and how you process the data. Vikas? So now, if you look at the current state of affairs, and why is that innovation required? I think if you see these figures, it will become quite apparent. So, as I said in the previous slide, the need for auditing of ESG reporting is ever growing. And if you look at the red numbers in the bottom of this slide, it shows that about 80% of investors simply want to know how want to have and know the information of a company on ESG before investing in it. It just gives them confidence about the sustainability and the future of sustainability of the investment that they're making. However, the confidence grows even further if these figures are actually audited. So it's something that investors are going to require from companies. So the need comes in for a regulatory framework and for an auditable regulatory framework. Now, if we then set that off versus the actuals at the moment in many, if not all companies, a survey has shown, then at the moment, 60% of companies basically have a patchwork of software applications to create their reporting. So basically, they're taking stuff from everywhere, out of all kind of business applications, to in the end fix that in some kind of ESG report. Now, if I ask a question about that report and I start to trace back that information in that report, how do I know where it came from? How can I audit that that information is reliable? How can I audit that that information is reproducible? I cannot, or at least it will be very, very hard. So one of the things that makes me real sad is that the middle number, is that 55%, so half of all the companies, is still trying to do their ESG reporting, or at least the data gathering and processing and analyses in Excel spreadsheets. And although I'm a big fan of Excel, but I don't think that the strategic data incorporated in ESG should be operated in Excel spreadsheets. Again, for the same reasons: traceability, track back, and reproducibility. That's simply not the way to go. And I think that's one of the key reasons behind the fact that only 8% of companies report to actually have a Scope 3 reduction plan. Because to have a Scope 3 reduction plan, you must have a solid data, a base of data. I didn't want to say database, but a base of data to start your reporting from, and to start building your reporting on that, and thus make a proper plan for that. So this also points to having the data in place and a way to operate and to manage those data. And in the end, certainly not in a bigger company, Excel isn't the way to go. And what we still see is that in even smaller, bigger companies, Excel is still the way to go. And that's very worrying if you look at the next slide. So in this slide, what you see is the involvement of all the different departments in companies in ESG strategy and reporting. And in the colors in the bars, so the little bars in the bigger bars, you can see at the bottom the different roles they play in ESG strategy, or what their part is in there. And I don't really care actually about what the different roles are. What I want to point out here is that what you see is that this is very scattered. Every department has about the same portion of a role in the whole process. So basically the whole company is involved for every part of the ESG reporting. So how can you then do this in Excel or in an informal way? Or to turn it around, how can you not do this in an integrated ESG solution, which offers you the functionality to collect, process, and analyze the ESG data that you required? So this is the fact of the day, that companies have to involve basically all of their company in the process, but basically don't know how, or at least not how to do that in a proper digital way. Next slide, please. Because in the end, what it all amounts to is, apart from an ESG report to put it on the website, what you want is a sustainability dashboard like this, that basically gives you in one overview the KPIs that you've set, all the inputs, and something that you can, well, preferably in real time update to the updated situation, to the changes in situation of your business at that moment in time. Because you could be questioned at any time by an investor, by a regulator, or by just simply one of your employees on what is the current situation. So you actually want real-time, up-to-date information to be able to be agile as a company on ESG reporting. To be very honest, real-time reporting is maybe a bit much to ask at this point in time. It would already be nice if companies would be able to draw up a quarterly report together with their quarterly stock figures. However, I think there should be a clear goal. And in the end, just like IT systems, back in the days when I was young, having real-time data out of your IT systems was a horrible thing to do. Nowadays, it's just an everyday matter. Everybody has it. Everybody does it. If it's not real-time, it's out of date and it's irrelevant. I think we will move to the same target with ESG reporting. And if we are not, I think we should. Next slide, please, Vikas. So what we're looking for is an ESG reporting process that should be in place for companies. And however logic it looks, if you put it on a slide like this, you come from the strategy side, you come from the business side, you gather some data from your business, and you put that together in basically a report. It sounds as simple as that, until you start digging. Okay, what is my strategy? What is my business? Who are my stakeholders in that business? But also very simple, what is it I'm procuring, like fossil fuels, but all other ingredients in my products or services that I buy? What are the scope 3 emissions associated with that? Where do I find this data? How do I get them? How do I integrate them in the rest of the process? Then in the end, making a proper ESG reports and ESG output is actually the simpler of tasks if you have the basics right, if you have the basic information right. And that starts with proper data collection and a way to manage those data in an integrated manner. Vikas, next slide. So what I've been looking for is a way to present you the currently, most important ESG management applications, business applications. And I can make a nice list, but that's not that interesting. I think it's important to see who are the most relevant ones. I found them in this report for Vendretics, and they made this nice magic quadrant showing the specialists and the innovators in there. And I'm very sorry, people, I'm really very sorry, but it's a Dutch company that is leading in there. It's just by chance. It's a Dutch-American company called Wolters Kluwer, but it's not that relevant. What is very important is that we can see that there is a quite nice of a population of this kind of ESG management applications, integrated suites that help you in collecting the data, processing, and creating the output that you require, both in terms of dashboarding as in ESG reporting according to some frameworks, including the new European one. We will add in the presentation, as it's being shared, a reference to the report that was output by Vendretics, because I think it's a very interesting read on the available software for ESG reporting. However, the market for this kind of applications is still rapidly growing. Saying one thing, that is that this software is not that much used at the moment. At the moment, it's mostly used in quite adult companies, so which are very far in their ESG life cycle compared to others. But so this is a very a market that is very quickly developing and fast growing. So I think that if we look in a year down the road, this map will have more dots, and the dots will have moved significantly within the matrix. But for now, I think this is a real good starting point if you're looking for an integrated solution to help you build your ESG reports and the whole process around it. Because so let's dive a bit more deep in the data side of things, because that is, I think, key. That's the first layer where we should all start from. Where do we get the proper data? And on top of the data, we can then build a process and in the end, a report. So let me explain the advantages of focusing on that data. So first of all, when you have the proper data, there's just simply less uncertainty. So if you have the right facts on stuff, it's way more easier solving dilemmas and making decisions than if you're not even certain on the basic data that you get from, for example, a supplier or from your own company. If you have no clue about the ESG ratings of your suppliers, then how can you ever trust the figures or understand the figures that they're giving you? So how can you then ever understand your own figures? It will give you better foresight. So if you have proper data, you can steer better, simply because you know you have to reach a certain target. And if you have the right figures, you can steer better for that target. Well, reduce subjectivity and guesswork basically links into the uncertainty one. If your facts and your figures are uncertain, or if you simply don't have facts and figures, you will start guessing. It's just automatic, or you have to make estimates, something like that. And if you add estimate on top of estimate on top of estimate, well, the outcome is just useless, basically. I think one of the strongest arguments for working from a data-enabled ESG reporting is that it will really increase your chances to end up on top of the wave of disruption instead being down there losing out. I think if you are in control of ESG reporting in an early stage of the process, and you do that in a data-driven way, making you very agile, making you very convinced and certain about your own facts, it will help you win the wave of disruption that's going through this world with the topic of sustainability and reporting about it. Let me take another one. I will not go through them all one by one. I think the last one is also very interesting: cost reduction and increased revenues. I think that if you can focus better, that's basically what the items above them say. If you can focus better on the right KPIs and the right data items, I think the whole process of ESG reporting is going to be cheaper, and it's going to help to select, for example, stuff that you buy way better. So way better future-proof, because you know what the ESG conditions of the goods that you are buying, you know them way better on in a fact-based way, and you simply have to make less changes in that process later on. You can just simply wait for it that stuff that has worse ESG parameters will become more expensive in the future, made more expensive by lawmakers, just to steer us in the right direction. If your company is in a better ESG situation, therefore, other companies will recognize that, and that will provide you a chance to increase your revenue, because you might be a way more preferable supplier to others, whether that be other businesses or consumers, because they also will think, I'd rather do business with a company that is in a very good position from an ESG perspective than a company that is less in a good position. So I think there are many reasons to get involved with the proper data and make the proper KPIs and the proper choices in there to steer your company the right way. Next slide, Vikas. So now, what do we want with data, and how do we process it? The strange thing, there are a lot of big characters on the screen, but the one that I think the word that I want you to remember is automate. I think as of day one, everything you do, please do it automated. Forget about Excel, but do inputs, analysis, processing, and reporting. Make it as automated as possible. First of all, it allows you to process way larger data volumes, so making your analyses, your inputs and your analyses way more detailed, and therefore the resolution way more higher, and therefore the quality of the analysis more in depth. Quality will not definitely be higher as such. That still depends on the way the analysis is done, but at least it will make analyses and processing further on way more in depth. And it will simply cost you less time after the initial investment, and it will simply cost you less money after the investment, and it will make you more agile. Because if you then have to change something in your reporting or something in your processes, it's not something of getting all your Excel sheets out and changing anything that people did to the data in between the different steps to change it. No, it's just simply a matter of changing the software or the automation part in there. So that's something I really want to give away. Automate. So data is important, but automated processing of data is maybe just as important. Vikas? So if I put that in figures, what that delivers is that building a proper data pipeline, that's what it's called. That's what automation will bring you, a data pipeline. You got a lot of inputs on one hand, and you want them to be processed and analyzed, and then you have a new set of data, but then an analyzed and processed data base of data. If you do that in a proper way, it can really save you, like according to this report, 90% of your time and cost invested in getting this all right every time again. So it will increase your agility, both in terms of cost and time, enormously. So as you can see, also time is cut down considerably by up to 80%. So that is a very important takeaway for you to look at your ESG data and reporting. Next slide, please. So, but then if you want proper data, where do you get them? And that is, of course, where the problem starts, or where the adventure starts, because that will be, I'm not finding the word in my head, but that's where the challenge starts. That's the word I was looking for. That's where the challenge starts. And it all starts with understanding the requirements and goals of your organization, because your ESG reporting has to reflect those goals of your organization. And from there, you can set the requirements on what do I actually need from within my organization, but also from external sources. That's what you have to. Examine. From that, you can then start to build a process that makes ESG reporting accountable and auditable. Next slide, please, Vikas. So, one of the things that I want to specifically give to you is this one. Is the where do you get your data? So internal of your organization, you have to basically build that yourself. So you have to find within each department, you have to, based on your requirements and your organizational goals, you have to find your KPIs yourself and the raw data yourself, and administer them in a structured way using one of the management softwares. I would propose that you have. That are available, but where do you get generic, open market, reliable and auditable data, ESG data? And for that, I want to point you out to Institut Louis Bagilier, which is a French institution. It's a scientific institution, and they have set up this open database where you can find all ESG data sources that are available to you, and they list, as you can see on the right of the screen, they list all free, all open source, partially free, but also proprietary data sources. So basically, proprietary data sources would be paid ones, but they also have lots and lots of free and open, reliable open source data sources. This institute also looks at those data sources and basically verifies their reliability and what their certifications are. So it's actually a scientific approach to list all the data sources that company can reliably use to start building their ESG data, and on top of that, do their analysis and do their ESG reporting. And as you can see in the middle, they also allow you to select what kind of data provider that you would like. And I wasn't able to list them all simply in the frame of the slide. But as you can see, you can also find AI-based tech platforms on there. So artificial intelligence-based tech platforms. So this stuff is really getting available now, and this website helps you finding those sources. And I would encourage you to use it to find the ESG raw data that you need further on in your application. Because I think that was my last slide. Yeah. So I hand it over to you. Is that fine? Vikas?
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry, I was put on mute. Didn't realize that. Okay. I hope the screen is visible now again.
Yeah, it's getting back visible, yeah.
Okay, great.
Now it's visible.
Okay. So I was saying you have already covered the best part of the presentation, all the scene setting, storytelling. Now I come to the most boring part of data. And at the time when India-Bangladesh match has already started, so I'm not sure how many of us are already focused on this presentation now. So wow, somebody got really excited. So I'm not going to focus more on these reporting frameworks. I believe a lot has already been talked about it: GRI, SDGs, SASB, TCFD, and CDP. Beyond that, in European Commission has just passed the regulation on CSRD, which is Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. In Europe, we tend to incline towards any law or act or regulation as a directive, irrespective of which industry. I don't know. Going forward, three things you're going to hear more from me are on big data, blockchain, and AI and ML. And before I go and talk more about it, a question I would like you to ask yourself: how many of you believe or think Bitcoin is blockchain, or blockchain is Bitcoin, and AI comes before ML? So now the big data is everywhere, and data is being produced, and one of our leading industrialists in India talked about data, and importance of data is new oil. And we are seeing data being harnessed, exploited, manufactured, manipulated, refined, reformed in each industry. Why? Because they want to get better insights in terms of the customer behavior, in terms of their performance, in terms of meeting their regulatory requirements, and in terms of catching up with their game towards the future. Now, when we talk about big data, because big data is coming from n number of resources, and data is coming from IoT devices, which are on the ground zero, installed in your parking lots, signage poles, and let's say the temperature control, pollution control devices. So all those devices, and those devices are somewhere giving feed of the data back to their center or the control room. So that's where it becomes very, very important for corporations, regulatory authorities to build an infrastructure to manage and control that amount of big data coming from different sources. establishing transparency in terms of where this data is reportedly or suggestively coming from. So an audit trail which can actually tell that this particular data is coming from this particular source, from this location, and what sort of agility and efficiency is being employed there. Now, Michel already talked about automating the data assurance, automating the ingestion of data and employing that automation strategy. Now, the data is coming from different suppliers, different vendors, different sources, and why it is becoming important for industry and the businesses to actually identify and getting an assurance of that data is actually reliable, it's accessible, it's authenticated, and you're not spending more time and resources on actually verifying the sources of that data. You can directly ingest that data and start putting your analysis around that data. Now, there are so many things happening around the industry in terms of net zero carbon emission or carbon offsetting, and where are we at? It's a question to debate, but at the same time, the current perspective and the real-time analysis in terms of the data, the carbon emissions of each of those companies and their rating would be very important. And that's where the companies who have implemented a net zero carbon emission strategy and what's their maturity level will also set up a very crucial component of the ESG reporting. At the same time, with this big data and the data coming in, it gives a multiple touch points of making well-informed decision-making for you, which way you need to go, what you need to offload from your production pipeline, your supplier side, your supply chain logistics side, and what better and well-informed decisions you need to take to meet the future requirements of the climate goals as well as the regulatory requirements, because it should not be a greenwashing practice. Now, improving customer understanding of ESG characteristics of product is also really important, because at the same time, it's not only about the investors who are investing in your products, in your services, but it's also the customers or the consumers who are going to be using that. And if customer is not having a confidence in your ESG practices, it also brings a lot more trouble for the company to cope up with that demand, and as well as also scale up their business. Now, this is a very simple data strategy, how you collect the data, mine the data, or gather the data from multiple sources. For example, is given from a PwC report for greenhouse gases emission coming from different industries and different sources, and how you aggregate the data in a structured format. Four steps are like ingest, cleanse or data cleansing, and then assess the data, and then standardize the data. The thing about Institute in France, what Michel shared, they have done a very important aspect of the data, because the trouble, I come from the data world and I see how there is no unified data model across any industry. And I give a very plain example. Many data sources like Morningstar or Refinitiv, Reuters, they have one data attribute stored. The value remains same. It can never change. The value remains same, but the data attribute is different. Foundation date, date of incorporation, incorporated date, date of establishment. So this is the same date when this particular company or this particular entity started their operations, but the data attribute is different. So that's the thing where aggregation of the data, putting the data quality, bringing the data for your uniform and unified data model is extremely important. So that's what they are doing in the stage 2 as data aggregation and standardization. And then of course you analyze the data for your data quality, because if you have a very good step 3, you actually save the efforts on things beyond 5, which is QC and QA. quality assurance and quality check. So the organizations and the experts and the analysts have to put a lot more effort on analyzing the data quality, transform the data in terms of your dashboards, how you want to represent it, and then put that data into your reporting system, produce your reports, and bring it forward towards your investors, consumers, to regulators, and everything. So this is a very simple data pipeline, how it works, and what are the efforts you need to take. Now, I came back to artificial intelligence. The question I asked, how many of us actually believe AI comes before ML? I tend to differ, because AI is a very efficient outcome of a very strong foundational machine learning being implemented. And how do you implement machine learning? By having a very clear and reformed data strategy. That's why big data came first. So AI comes at the last. Machine learning is the foundation of AI. Now, based on this AI, I'm not going to give jargon around what is NLP, predictive analysis, and deep learning. We all know that NLP algorithms are to analyze unstructured data and structured data from various sources, as well as predictive analysis. There are so many tools and platforms already there, and they are being used for ESG trends and ESG market side. And not only predictive analysis is a new thing to ESG, predictive analysis has been used extensively on risk and fraud management side by customer behavior, pattern mapping, and all. And that's where they are actually elevating the knowledge and the advancement of predictive analysis towards the ESG and ESG risk, how they can forecast of certain company performance or organization's performance towards ESG risk, and what they're going to meet in terms of climate goals or ESG ratings and all. And deep learning is identifying the patterns in complex and abstract data from pictures, screenshots, huge amount of data or exceptional load of data being ingested, and then how your algorithm is running automated way to perform your analysis on deep learning. Now, the benefits of artificial intelligence, of course, Michel has, the reason why Michel has clearly said, because data would be coming from each direction, from multiple sources, and the data will be also having no unified data model, and one analyst or manual effort cannot do that. Automated information mining is extremely important, and then it comes to actionable intelligence, because it gives you multiple decision points. Now, these two areas are extremely important, because a question I have asked to many of my customers, that if I give you the ESG performance of a company, and I give the same ESG performance of your two analysts, and they go in two different rooms, can they come back with the same result? The answer was no. And that's why, to bring the efficient standardization and having an intelligence for decision making is very important. And that comes from ingesting data, which is automated mined, as well as aggregated and ingested in your systems. Then extraction from images and tables. This is for unstructured, abstract data, which is coming, and how you take it out, how you put it for your use. This is automated using AI assisted scoping. It tells you what's your near-term targets, what you need to look into at the immediate short term, and how this data and AI can help you meeting those. Entity recognition for historical insights from predictive analysis, how you are going to do, and what are the areas of ESG risk which you need to look into, and of course, prediction of compliance probability and interactive quality assurance will be achieved. This is one of the most famous organization in the world whose ESG report, a screenshot of the ESG report is put on. On the left top, you can see the name as Apple Inc. or Apple Incorporated. And then on 5 parameters or metrics, they were going business 80 out of 100, environmental 92 out of 100, but go on inside, they are 16 out of 100, social 43, and goals met total are 13 out of 17 for sustainability development goals. Does it resonate somewhere to you guys? So how can we use ESG data and AI ML to achieve greater insights and better decision making? These all are the certain AI and ESG reporting use cases which I have done, and this is not just limited to these. There could be n number of cases which you bright minds would come up with, and actually you could put this data strategy and everything in use. So I identifying ESG hotspots where ESG need to take more action to be more vigilant coming from the data from the sensors, satellites, and other IoT devices. Pay attention to the government initiative of smart cities in India, how they are doing it and what sort of data gathering they are doing, because smart cities cannot happen without having ESG requirements within India or anywhere in the world. Then utilization of supply data. This is if it is not clear how we are implementing supply data. Let's say a very simple example, when you onboard a supplier or a vendor or a business in your books to do certain form of supply chain or transactions, goods or services, most of the companies, especially the mature companies, are asking for ESG report from their suppliers as part of the tenders or proposals. And if those ESG ratings are not meeting their risk ratings, they are off-boarded and they are not applied. So this is one of that area. And then, of course, benchmarking the performance, which brings the ESG risk and the metrics across their geolocations, which business units and the business areas they're working, and what time frame they have actually escalated or elevated their ESG risk and reporting. Sustainable development on ESG using blockchain. The question I asked was, is blockchain is Bitcoin? I know everybody is aware of what Bitcoin is, but Bitcoin is actually the most popular manifestation of blockchain technology. So blockchain technology is the underlying technology on which Bitcoin code was written, and then a P2P or peer-to-peer network was created. So in terms of ESG or in terms of any other industry, the fundamental concept of blockchain remains same, a P2P network, which is having the data accessible, available, and authenticated by all the stakeholders within that network. The data accuracy is achieved through this, and then it is having an immutable audit trail which cannot be changed. So you cannot delete a record, you only can update the record. And when you update the record, based on your ESG risk changing over a period of time, your rating changing over a period of time, your business policies changing over a period of time, all those updates will be monitored and will be logged in. You cannot delete anything in there. So that brings the sort of traceability and trust. And this is what it is called distributed ledger technology, creating the blockchain fundamental. And then stakeholder engagement and collaboration, where multiple parties can actually access, contribute, and verify the data in real time. Yes, this is a happy state. This is a wishful state to be, but I believe the advancement and the development happening in blockchain area will enable us to achieve that. So this is a very, not so simple, but a very real life use case of blockchain from mining industry, because in mining industry, it's really difficult that to enable where this mining is happening, how it is coming in, what conditions, labor conditions, human rights, climate conditions, carbon emissions, this whole mining thing is happening. And if blockchain is implemented on that, because mining is a very carbon intensive industry and ESG norms are not really followed or practiced on a regular basis. And if mining industry is put under the blockchain, so having a geofencing of the mining area, mining plant, and then geotagging of the refinery or refinement plant, and then all the parties involved in it, from shipping, logistics to market auction process, and having a blockchain QR code enabled, the whole concept of traceability, authenticity, and ESG can be traced back to where this particular data came from till it reaches to the steel plant to manufacture the final goods. Potential use cases for blockchain in ESG reporting, like on carbon traceability, I already talked about it, as well as the carbon credit trading, because it can be used as one carbon credit for per 1 metric ton of carbon emission reduced. So each company or each organization which is on the blockchain gets credit with one carbon unit, let's say, and then these credits can be transacted or offloaded in terms of ESG ratings towards different companies, and how such platforms can actually enable the buyers and sellers directly in terms of trading and looking into the potential of ESG risk and the standards of one company who is actually involved in reducing carbon emissions, reducing GHG greenhouse gases, as well as is enabled on the blockchain side. Then contents of the ESG report, I have segregated on 3 parameters, the environment terms, social terms, and governance practice. Environment, of course, the usual suspects are climate change, water and waste management side, water conservation side, land use and material impact on the usage of land. Then on the labor side is or social side is the labor standards, human rights, employee well-being, wages, which are very essential component of the ESG report. And then on the governance practices of the data privacy, cyber security, and anti-corruption or anti-bribery, which I talked about in Monday session, as well as the executive remuneration, because this is also becoming a core topic of ESG investors, looking into how much of the executives and their salary and the dividends they are taking out, and at the cost of not meeting the ESG risk and having poor labor standards and poor human rights even in their organizations. So that ends my presentation. These all are some of the references which we have put together where this whole data and context come from for us. So those who want to actually refer, these all are some of the very good sources which we have looked into. And now we are open for questions if you guys have any.
Thank you, sir, for imparting your invaluable insights. So shall we take the questions?
Yes, please. So what is actually important for them? So I can say, coming from data world, there might be 100 or 102 data attributes which are used universally and globally. But when you are presenting that particular data set in one jurisdiction or in one regulation or under one legislation, there might only be 10 or 20 or 30. So you might actually end up creating reports for regulation or jurisdiction side, which is actually important to which jurisdiction or regulatory framework.
Okay. Mosmi, you may ask the questions.
So our next question is, how has technology improved the accuracy and reliability of ESG data collection and reporting within your organizations?
Well, can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have some confusing things here. Well, as I pointed out in my part of the presentation, what we see now is that a lot of data processing is manual from top to bottom. So first of all, collecting, it's done in what I would say is Dutch, an unorganized manner. It's patchwork. Then it's all collected in like Excel kind of files. It then is combined by humans over and over again in a repetitive process, which hopefully goes in a unified way, the same way they did last year or the last quarter or the last week, which usually it isn't. So basically, it's not about what technology, but the fact that it was digitalized and unified from software. Sorry for putting it like that. That is the way technology improved the accuracy and reliability, will improve accuracy and reliability the most. So it's not spectacular in the sense of that there's spectacular new technology, but just automating the process will already filter out, well, not the noise, because that was the word Manvendra meant in a different way, but or let's say all the waste that is in there and all the loss that's in there and all the damage that's done to the data in the process. So I think it's automation. Will just be let's say a small part in there. So in Europe, of course, we know the GDPR, which is the regulation on privacy, and I think something will wider than that will be in place to cover all kind of new technologies out there and how the data collected by that technology is being used. So GDPR is more oriented towards, let's say, individuals, in this case of the European Union. But I think you will get the same kind of framework for information that is primarily collected for business use. But in the end, you cannot do that limitless without punishment, to put it like that. So it will there will be a bound to it, but I think there's no specific relation to ESG reporting. It's a generic issue.
So thank you. Adding up the same question, like how can technology enable real-time reporting and dynamic adjustment to ESG data, ensuring that reports are always up to date, since we are in technology world? So just.
Well, I would like to flip that around. How would we make real-time reporting without technology? It's simply impossible. I think all Vikas basically pointed out on how, apart from devices, that are being interlinked through IoT type of technologies. Also, goods like carbon, chemical substances are being made traceable. And if you combine these two, you get the raw data that is required to produce dashboards and reporting in a real-time fashion, because both the devices that are being used, the people that are being in the process, and the goods that are in the processes, they're all traceable in some way or form, thus giving you the possibility to make them those traces real-time available in terms of dashboards and reports. Now, the problem is that will generate lots and lots of data, and data isn't necessarily information. Well, it's for sure not information. So it still needs processing. It still needs filtering out the noise that Manvendra mentioned. And adding to the answer that Vikas gave to the question of Manvendra, I think AI will preliminary help, will basically help us in filtering out the noise in all that data. It will tell us this is the core of the message that is hidden in all that data. So that's the way how I see that technology will help us in creating real-time and just reporting.
Thank you, Michel.
So what's the score, Vikas?
I followed up. Somebody should bring it on screen then.
Even I'm not watching. I have to go watch after this session. Thanks, Michel. Michel, thanks a lot. Like you spare your time even during the vacation.
Yep, you're welcome.
You have been in the vacation and you have spared your time for this. And lastly, I would like to say that both of you have been like a Jay and Viru of Sholay. Vikas may explain you better the role of Jay and Viru, how they have been performing in this movie, in Indian movie called Sholay. So being a mentor and a mentee, you both have done a commendable job, have added a lot more value and insight to our FDP. Thanks a lot, Michel.
Let me translate it in Dutch terms. Ye pen Janneke. In Dutch, ye pen Janneke.
Ye pen Janneke, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. If there's no other stuff, then thank you much to everybody for attending and for your attention. And Manvendra, thank you for having us.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
A request to all the participants, you will be given a mandatory feedback form, and the certificates will be provided based on its completion. So do please fill the forms.